Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners and macabre murders from across the centuries and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 87.
Yes, it is.
87.
Spills.
Yes, we're still doing the spooky voice even though
Yes.
spooky month is over.
That's all we need to say about that, really. 87, move on.
87 episodes, actually. That's a lot.
It's a lot of episodes.
It is. Every now and then we look back and go, well, we've done a lot, haven't we?
A lot, indeed. How many take on the Patreon as well? Like another 60 odd in there?
I think there's about 16 million episodes that we've done.
60 million episodes we've done.
No one's ever had a podcast that lasts this long. Joe Rogan doesn't know what he's doing, man. Oh, how are you, Nick?
I'm alright. Warmer than yesterday. I was cold.
Yes, when we recorded Patreon this week, Nick was a huddled old woman with
Yes, I
many
was very sort of like Ukrainian peasant.
blankets and jumpers
blankets
all wrapped around you. Like, it's cold
It's
outside.
so cold.
Like, put the heating on. Calm down. Autumn's dying.
Yeah,
Winter is here.
we're heading into winter now.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming. It's not going to be very exciting in Kent, is it? So
Not really. It's just wet.
It's just wet. 50 foot of snow and mammoths and... No, it gets a bit drizzly.
It's a bit drizzly. The mammoths come out and go, oh, my hair. No, it frizzes. Any poisonings this week?
No.
No poisonings.
No. It's too cold. Too cold for that malarkey.
The poisons all froze, did they?
Yes, that was it.
Or are they chilled to perfection?
Oh, how witty you are.
No poisonings for me. I've been poisoned by my fabric softener, as our Patreon subscribers know, and it nearly killed me. Oh, I nearly died. No, I didn't. I nearly died of sneezing. But other than that, no other poisonings.
It's getting weird.
It's always weird.
Yeah, it's getting weirder than usual.
How weird does it need to get for it to get weirder than usual, Nick? Because I'd like to test these boundaries.
I have a weird vibe going on.
Okay, well, speaking of weird vibes and testing the boundaries, I think it's time for us to thank our delicious new Patreon subscribers.
Yes, indeed, we should. They're not weird at all. Well, who knows? Thank you so much to Lauren Manbricky,
To Francis Eldrick Dow,
to Loki's Humans,
and Junior Roebuck. Thank you so much, you lovely people.
Thank you very
Excellent
much.
names this week.
Yeah, indeed. I'm probably pronouncing many of them horribly wrong, but...
They sound like some sort of ensemble like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yes, they all have secret powers.
Yes, okay.
You're all very, very sexy. We had fun on Patreon this week. We talked about evil buildings, which you questioned.
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by this at all.
We were able to tell multiple stories about one venue, the Cecil Hotel, and some of the famous stories associated with that. Yes, quite the debate again on Patreon. People had feelings. People have feelings.
As they are wont to do.
That's why Patreon is such a wonderful place. So do come and join us on there if you haven't already for but $5 a month, or whatever the currency is that you pay money in. What? That's a thing.
That is a thing. Yeah, there are other currencies. Yeah,
There are other currencies.
Yeah, indeed.
There's pounds,
That's at least two of them.
Australian pounds, dollars.
Let's go with dollars.
Dollars. See, we're already making headway through all the currencies.
This is Sinead's next podcast, Currencies of the World. This will be very exciting, everyone.
Me just reading one out a week.
You're in for a treat.
Well, Nick, are you ready
I think we need to do something.
to drink cocktails and talk about poison?
Yes, I believe so.
Or we could drink poison and talk about cocktails.
No, I want a cocktail. I have a cocktail. I want another cocktail.
You've started on the cocktails
I
already.
have, yeah. Has to be done. Pre-cocktail cocktail. It's now a thing.
I didn't this week.
Yeah, so that made me realise I can make a nice cocktail that you won't like.
What?
Because I put all the green chartreuse in it.
Oh, so your pre-cocktail cocktail is a chartreusey wonderland.
A wonderland of chartreuse.
Oh, what did you make?
I made a bijou.
A bijou?
A bijou.
What is that?
Gin,
Uh,
green chartreuse, red vermouth, orange bitters.
sounds horrible.
Sounds marvellous. It's bloody gorgeous.
Sounds sinful. Don't like it. Well, you enjoy a little bijou. I'm excited for cocktail time. We can't possibly have a story without a cocktail in hand. As you know, dear listeners, every week we choose a secret ingredient that is inspired by the tale that we tell that will flavour our cocktail of the week. It's Nick's pick this week.
Could you tell it was my pick this week?
What's the secret ingredient, Nick?
Got a bit weird, didn't it?
What's the secret ingredient, Nick?
It is red.
I'm done. That's it. There's no more podcast. I'm done. Red.
She's very dramatic. She's
Red.
very, very dramatic.
Red. It's a colour.
Yes, it is a colour.
How can that be an ingredient?
Well, we've had this conversation so many times.
I still think red is crossing a line. I mean, art,
Art,
love,
love.
Sicily. Sicily.
Yeah, so art and love and Sicily, we can get away with that, but we can't use a colour.
A colour it's just abstract. It doesn't
So
mean
is
anything.
love.
Love is an in-joke. That's the secret ingredient of everything. Art is the thing that feeds the soul, inspires things.
Right.
Red, what does that bloody do to drinks?
Makes them red.
Red flavoured.
Red flavoured. It's a lump of purest red.
So with red, what could you possibly have plucked out of your head with red as your inspiration? What have you come up with, Nick?
I'm getting a lot of attitude here that I'm not liking this.
No, you're going to put red on the table. This is what is going to happen.
I have made a cocktail with my new ingredient,
Okay.
red chartreuse.
What?
No, I made that up.
Oh, thank God. Oh, Jesus.
So I was going to say, how long can I get away with that one? No.
I thought you were serious there for a minute. No, that's it. This is where the podcast ends and the bloodshed begins. Red would be apt.
I haven't used the entirely imaginary red chartreuse.
God. So what have you come up
We
with?
are having a red lion.
A red lion?
Yes.
Okay. There are no red lions. Lie after lie with you, isn't it?
It's all just lies and subterfuge.
Red lion's pretty cool, though. It's
pretty cool now, is it?
Isn't that the most popular pub name
I
in
believe it is.
Britain?
I believe so. Yeah, something like that.
In England, there's loads of pubs called the Red Lion, like the Red Lion and the King's Head and the
Queen's
Bishop's face.
Bishop's hat.
Bishop's finger is actually one in Canterbury. But the Red Lion, very popular pub name. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Red Lion, majestic,
Red lion,
lion that lay in the sun for too long.
Yeah. Okay.
Or got painted to impress people. Okay, a red lion. That
Yes.
sounds exciting.
I'm glad you're excited.
You're so exasperated with me right now, aren't you? I will go with it. Sounds delightful,
How
Nick.
kind you are.
Sounds delicious.
Not that you've got a fucking choice.
Normally right now I say it's time for us to go into the poisoner's cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm, which I will still say, but just fair warning, Nick may kill me when I go into the poisoner's cabinet kitchen if his current look on his face is anything to go by. Well, let's just see what happens. Wish me luck, people, but let's go into the poisoner's cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm, so we'll see you in a minute.
See you in a bit.
And we're back.
Hello.
Well, it's red.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, fine.
If you had brought out a blue cocktail, I would have been very proud, actually, in a way. A very, very, very red cocktail. Cherry red, if you will. Maybe that's a hint of what the ingredient is. And it has wonderful accoutrement. That's the only word that came into my head.
Yes, it has a delightful accoutrement.
Garnish, bloody hell.
That's
garnish.
the word you were looking for.
Yes, the rim of the glass is encrusted with sugar.
Has a sugary rim.
I'm assuming it's sugar. I mean, it could be crack. I don't
Crack,
know.
yes. It's garnished with crack.
Well, it could be arsenic, actually, the way you're going with me. It looks very pretty, very stylish. May just forgive the redness.
Oh, how kind.
If it tastes delicious, I promise I will drop this and never torment you about it again.
Yeah, we're right.
I think it's time for us to have a little taste.
Give it a go.
Exciting. All right.
Yeah.
Cheers. Merry
Cheers,
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Whoa! Wow, wow, wow. Sharp.
Ooh, that's a fruity extravaganza.
It's a fruity number. It's a fruity... There's orange juice in that, isn't there? Is there orange juice?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Trying some of the orange sugar as well. Oh, Oh, is that like an orangey blossom sugar or something?
There's an orange zesty sugar.
An orange zested sugar. It's
Yes.
delicious. This is what happened when you made the brandy cruster. I just ate the sugar off the glass. Wow. That's a nice cocktail.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's really fruity. It's not as strong as the
See?
normal cocktails.
Well,
that
exactly.
we
So
have.
often has been commented that the cocktails I tend to make are generally quite powerful, potent, strong ones. So I thought this one needs something with a bit more juice, a bit more fruitiness in it. Not quite as strong. So we've got this one.
I can taste orange juice in there and other things. It's not just
Orange juice and friends.
The orange juice isn't overpowering. It's strong, but it's really pleasant. What's in it? Talk me through.
Well, I'm glad you like the orange juice because it was hand squished after the last time we had orange juice, and I got berated for using orange juice from a carton. So I flew the oranges in from Seville, especially. Hand squished them, zested the rind for the sugar crust.
No one has suffered as you
No,
have,
no
Nick.
one has suffered as I have. It took me hours. So we have gin. We have a base of gin.
Yeah.
We have Grand Marnier,
Oh, yeah. That's
which is an orangey twang.
I'm into that.
Orange juice, lemon juice, grenadine for the colour,
For the colour.
surprisingly, and a dash of orange bitters.
Delicious.
That's it. Garnish. I'm not usually one to go with much of a garnish, because generally I can't be asked. But they do make the glass look pretty.
They do, and that is
add
a
something.
really nice garnish. The orange zested sugar is really tasty. I think it adds to it.
I also think, see, this is me, going, I think it looks like a lion's mane.
You have too many cocktails
Shut up.
before you do
Shut
it. It looks nothing like a lion's mane.
Oh,
it
fuck
looks
off.
beautiful. Nick, don't try to gild the lily.
It's called a red lion.
Don't
I thought
put
it looked liony.
Okay, fine. It's a lion's mane around it. Really tasty. Nice,
Yes, nice one.
nice fruity drink.
Fruity. That's worked well. Nothing more to say.
Resounding
it's a very
success.
pleasant cocktail.
Great, we're rattling through this.
Oh,
This is brilliant.
great. I'll be in bed by 9.
Well, with the red lions firmly in hand, paws in hand, if you will, strolling down the street, is it time for a story, Nick?
Yes, why not? Let's do it.
Wonderful. I've got a drink. Nick's going to tell a story. Hooray!
Then I'm going to drink some more.
Hooray! And I'm not working tomorrow.
Well, I
Hooray!
am. Ooh. Anyway, back to the story.
Back to the
Back
story.
to the story. So today, we are going back. We are going far, far, far back.
Okay.
To the 1600s.
Oh, nice. We haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't been that far back, so I thought...
Ooh, love it.
Yeah, it's a bit... history back then can be a bit vague, but it can be quite bizarre and marvellous as well.
That's a great disclaimer. History is vague, so if any of this doesn't make sense, history was vague. History was vague.
Means I've made a load of shit up and it's fine.
I am not the person to question this. You could say anything. I'd go, I would not only believe you, I would go, yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely they did that. I'm just going to eat my sugar now.
You eat your sugar. We are going to meet Catalina de los Ríos y Lísperguer.
She sounds fancy.
Well, indeed. So very fancy indeed. So she was born in 1604 in Santiago, in Chile.
Ooh, South America.
South America.
Have we been to
I don't
South
believe we
America?
have. So
Not
no.
in the main episode.
Oh, we have on Patreon. Chile then was part of the Spanish Empire. And as you have correctly guessed from her name, she was desperately fancy. A highly aristocratic family, lots of land, big castles. It was all very exciting.
Ooh, okay. Want to party with her.
Her father was Gonzalo de los Rio en Enrico.
You're loving these
It's
names,
great
aren't you?
accents. I mean, my Spanish is fucking brilliant. He's a nobleman, as you would expect, from a Spanish aristocratic family. He is a general in the Chilean army and 3-time mayor of Santiago. So, quite fancy. Her mother was Catalina Lísperguer y Flores.
Ooh.
She's the daughter of a German nobleman from Württemberg.
What? Sorry?
A German nobleman from Württemberg.
Oh, I thought you said Wolfenburg, and I was like, that's not a real place. That I picked one of the holes in your story. Sorry, everyone.
Listen properly.
Philistine historian. Which one's which?
She also is able to trace her lineage back to Bartholomeus Blumenthal Welzer, who is the first German in South America.
Right.
In the history of the world. He was the first German to set foot on the South American continent.
Is this important to the story?
No, not at all. It's just an interesting bit of history to bulk things out of it.
There was the first German. What?
Yeah.
Did he kill anyone?
No, he just went
Well,
there
screw
and went, oh, look, it's nice.
Oh, look, it's very nice.
It's very nice. He put a flag. He was European.
Okay.
But also,
Oh, there's more.
more.
Oh, there's more.
So much more in her mother's history. Her mother had Incan heritage as well.
Oh, nice. We like the
On
Incas.
her mother's side. So there were some shenanigans with a Spanish person at some point.
The scandal.
A scandal indeed.
Is that a good thing? Is
Well-
it a scandal or is it more...
Yeah, I think it's probably more towards the side of things rather than the ooh side of things.
not the ooh
Not
side
the
of
ooh side of
things.
things. That's a whole third side of things.
Various noises were made.
Various noises were made. No one knew what any of them meant. So Catalina is a descendant of all these different people. She's got German, Spanish, Incan, and her parents sort of imbue her with the belief as she's growing up that she is this sort of symbol of the future identity of Chile. She
Okay.
is a combination of the heritages of all these cultures that have come together in this one person. I mean, it's a lot to live up to when you're like 3. So,
Well, it's a lovely idea.
it's a lovely idea. It's a lovely idea, but yeah, it's big shoulders to carry that sort of responsibility. Of
Well, I'm sure
I am the future of the Chilean people.
I'm sure they piecemealed it out over her adolescence. They didn't just get her when she was 3, shout it in her face and say, that's the only bit of information I'm going to give you on this. Now
I
go deal with
wouldn't be
it.
so sure about that.
Okay. She's 3 holding up the flags of every country. I'm like, not sure what to do with this.
I mean, both her parents, I mean, especially her mother, are incredibly ambitious people. They are keen to advance their already considerable position in society, but they want to go further, they want to go up. And that ambition hadn't come from nowhere. The Lísperguer family, on her mother's side, already had a very turbulent history, might be the nice way of putting it, and a reputation for a lot of sneaky underhandedness. A lot of sneakiness going on.
Sneakiness, as in
Political, cutthroaty, sneaky behaviours to get where they want to achieve their goals and things. In a time when poisoning someone to get ahead is perfectly fine. You go for it. They were pretty good at this sort of, sneaky ways.
Fine, not just slipping in a colour as a secret ingredient in a kind of a sneakiness, yeah.
In 1601, which is a few years before Catalina's birth, her mother and her Aunt Maria, so her mother and her sister, plotted between them to poison the new Spanish royal governor of Chile, a chap called Alonso de Ribera. Then the man had barely arrived in Santiago from Spain when the Lísperguer sisters go after him.
Oh, that's a wonderful image, that is.
Absolutely. Now, the new governor has arrived and he has found things in a bit of a shambles. It's all in a bit of a state. I mean, Chile is obviously a long way from Spain. People have been left to sort of get on with things, and the rich families have been left to pretty much do whatever they want, but with no regard for the Spanish crown or anything. Who has been funding this whole sort of colony? So Spain is sending boatloads of cash to pay for guards and armies and all this sort of stuff. The noble families who are meant to be sort of managing Chile and looking after it in the interest of Spain are pretty much going, fuck you, I'm having a party.
Looking out for themselves.
Looking out for themselves.
Rather than going, this is a monument to the king, this is a church for the king, this is a church for everything. No,
building up huge piles of cash for themselves and not sending much of it back. So when the governor arrives and he announces his intention to bring things back into line, many of the noble families are not entirely happy by this announcement. They're having a great time as it was. So it is decided that something must be done. Now, we do not know exactly how this poisoning took place, but I'm imagining a very fancy ball. So, welcome to Chile, welcome to Santiago, these are all the noble people. Fancy goblets full of poisoned wine, maybe.
Yes, have a drink.
Have a drink. It's very
You'll never
nice.
taste a better beverage. Oh, why are you laughing? No reason. Gulpy, down in one, mate, down in one. Is there? I mean, I'm assuming there's no information about how he was poisoned, so you've made up a fancy ball.
Well, yeah, we don't know. We know there was a poison.
Let's go with
he
it.
survived the poisoning attempt.
Ah, okay.
So
he danced it off.
He danced it off, but it could be, I don't know, he was at the local McDonald's and he got poisoned. Don't know. I'm going with fancy ball.
Fancy ball, great. The big staircase.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. They shipped in extra staircases for the ball. Masquerade.
Lloyd Webber's there 400 years early. Anyway, the governor survives the attempt on his life. And he has a pretty good idea of who is responsible. Maria Lísperguer, the sister, is charged with attempted murder.
Oh, okay.
And is found guilty.
Oh.
And she is exiled to Peru.
Peru?
For the rest of her life. To live in the jungle.
Yeah, meets Paddington.
Up a tree. Yes, goes to live with Paddington. But Catalina's mother is not deterred and continues with her plans to advance her status, and next sets her sights on the rich widower, González de los Ríos, the future father of Catalina. Now, González is a wealthy man himself. He owns thousands of acres of farmland and forest and lakes and streams and all this sort of stuff, which is hugely important.
I like the way you described land.
Well, you need the forest, you need to build some ships and stuff like that.
You need the streams, you need the fields, you need the uppy-downy bits.
It's not just like, oh, I've got a mountain.
I'm thinking thousands of acres would cover that, yes, that's fine.
Oh, shush yourself.
If he had just one mountain, who has that?
The Mountain King has that. Exactly. And he's got a great theme tune as well. So
exactly. Sure. That's all he has. He can't sell for shit. That's it. Like, I've got a mountain. Oh, come back. I need medical supplies.
The two marry, bringing together the Spanish, German, Incan families. But there is this fly in the ointment, the fly in the great plan.
Oh, no.
González has a daughter from his first marriage. Now, this young girl would be the first to inherit over any children that Gonzalo would have with his new wife. And so the ultimate wicked stepmother comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And she does away with the girl.
Oh.
Supposedly with poison in an evening meal.
What kind of poison are they using?
We don't know.
Do you want to speculate?
Well, we think it is something local, but something plant-based. from some local herbs or something like that. Because, and I'll tell you why I think this, because there's also a rumour that along with this young girl, she also murders a local woman who is a servant in the house, who apparently has helped her in this endeavour. So has perhaps provided this poison with her local knowledge or something. But of course, there must be no witnesses to this crime. So she's done away with her accomplice. After this girl's tragic demise, wicked stepmother is there, of course, to comfort her bereaved husband. What a tragic accident! How could it happen to someone so young? Etc. Etc. Etc.
That's her exact speech.
That's exactly what it says. A lot of comforting going on. Awful lot of comforting. After which she has fallen pregnant.
Okay, of course. It is the magic of the comforting.
The magic of the comforting.
Yeah.
And in 1604, she gives birth to their daughter, Catalina de los Ríos y Lísperguer.
Da-da-da.
Now, Catalina grows up rich. She has whatever she wants and is given free reign over the family's lands and estates. After her birth, we do not know what happened to her mother. We know that her mother is out of the picture by the time Catalina turns 18.
Oh.
She has presumably died at some point between childbirth and 18 years old. Now, Catalina does not receive a formal education. She's a girl, after all. But her mother lived long enough to impart on her her own lessons in ambition and ruthlessness, the family traits that have been well learned in the Lísperguer family line.
Core to the curriculum as well, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. You need to learn these things. I mean, this is a daughter she has named after herself. She's up there with that. Yes, I will live forever through my daughter.
Through her daughter, she's teaching her all the ways of ambition and scheming and conniving ways. A girl can't add or spell.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
But she's ambitious as hell.
Yeah, I mean, there's rumours that there's things today, she can hardly write.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But she's an excellent schemer. As she gets older, she is considered quite the beauty. She is tall, pale, she has flame red hair, and intense green eyes.
Oh, she's sexy.
She's sexy. But she is known to have a cruel streak, and her family's position gives her the freedom to act as she wants. She is known to whip her servants, but she whips them with the branches from the Quintrala plant.
Oh, bloody hell.
Now, this is an indigenous plant with bright red flowers that would leave red streaks on the skin, looking like blood, as she beats them with these branches.
Is this the thing?
This is the thing!
You could have gone with red flowers.
I could have done.
Where's the fun in that?
There's a lot of red going on.
Okay, fair enough.
But all of these things combined, they will earn her actually the lifelong nickname, La Quintrala.
And then after
Which
the
is
name of the tree.
after the name of the plant, which was red, and combined with her flaming red hair, it was all sort of linked together to this is her name.
The Red Mistress.
Indeed.
Lovely.
Now, the first we hear of something other than the usual sort of casual violence and mistreatment of servants is in 1622. She is 18 years old. Now, her mother has passed away by this point, and her father is rather absent. He is often away on duty with the army or running his estate somewhere. So Catalina had mainly been raised by her grandmother. There are stories I say, that her grandmother schooled the young Catalina in the ways of Incan superstition and magic.
Nice.
But that could just have been a bit of flavour that was added in a bit later down the line. I like to think that it's true, because there was certainly Incan heritage in her mother's family. Anyway, when she's 18 years old, her father Gonzalo suddenly dies. He's dead. With both parents now out of the way, she stands to inherit everything. But then an aunt comes out of the woodwork.
An aunt comes out of the woodwork? That is magic.
Well, indeed. She's been waiting in this wardrobe for fucking ages. Years she's been in there. But she comes out and accuses Catalina of killing her own father.
No,
the aunt claims that Gonzalo was ill in bed. Nothing too serious, but just a bit of a sniffle. But when Catalina volunteered to cook a meal for her ailing father, it did seem a bit odd to the servants and everyone else. She had never cooked anything before that they knew of. She probably didn't even know where the kitchens were, really. But she was insistent that she would cook this meal for her ill father. And so she did, and she prepares a meal of chicken. Which would have been a secret ingredient, but you've already took it. She gave this meal to her father. Soon after, Gonzalo is dead, leading to a great many rumours that the chicken had in fact been poisoned, and that Catalina had done away with her absent father.
I can see that if she doesn't really cook before, and then she's like, no, I will make him the best meal ever. I love him so much.
And the thought was he wasn't that ill. He had a bit of a cold, bit of a flu, bit of something, and he was expected to recover perfectly and be fine, but it took a turn for the worse after this meal. Now, even though the aunt went to the governor with her claims of foul play, nothing ever happened to Catalina. Maybe due to the lack of evidence that there was actually nothing going on, and maybe due to her family's influence and the connections in court and in the governor's house, but these rumours stuck. That she had something to do with her own father's death. Whatever happened, Catalina is now left in the care of her grandmother, who swiftly goes about trying to arrange a suitable marriage for her. She has grown up with this reputation of cruelty, lashing out at servants, which I imagine was probably... The same could be said of many nobles at that point in history.
Yes.
Really. I don't think it was particularly unique to her. But now these rumours that she may have murdered her father sort of add to her reputation. So it's not going to be easy to find a suitable gentleman to take on such a fiery character. It was thought that, though, that a husband would help her change her ways. She would be in love, she would have her own children, she would mellow out, she would take up embroidery, and do all the things that ladies do, and all would be well.
Absolutely, that's what every woman wants.
Exactly.
Just get married, do some sewing forever and ever and ever. That would make everything better.
It'll make everything fine.
Husbands are fine back then. Childbirth is a doddle.
Exactly. It takes 4 years and a very generous dowry, but eventually someone agrees to marry Catalina. And in September 1626, she marries a Spanish colonel, Alonso de Caraval de Ribos.
Very fancy.
Not that she had any say in the matter whatsoever. The priest who married them was Pedro de Figura, and legend says that Catalina never forgave him for his part in this marriage and tried to assassinate him later down the line.
All right, it's a bit much. The priest is just doing his job.
Well, in revenge for marrying him to this man she did not want to marry. So something of her character. Alonso is 20 years older than his new wife, so he is 42, she is 22. But it turns out that they're not that mismatched after all. I mean, he doesn't share her overly ruthless streak. Yes, he's strict with the servants, with the slaves, as all the nobles were.
As was the style
of the time. And he is equally ambitious as well. And with his wife's names now behind him, he begins to swiftly rise through the ranks. And he even actually replaces one of Catalina's relatives, Rodolfo Lísperguer, as mayor of Santiago, eventually. So his wife's name has propelled him upwards. The year after their marriage, Catalina gives birth to their first and only son, who she names Gonzalo, which seems to me a bit weird that she would name her firstborn son after her father if she had murdered him.
No, I don't think so.
You think
I think that would be if you'd murdered him, you'd go, no, why would I have named my son if I'd murdered my father? It was also tradition.
Yeah,
name
maybe
the
so.
son
Maybe
of the father of the grandfather. It would seem weird if she didn't.
Oh, okay. No, fair point. I take that indeed. But, I mean, unfortunately, the young lad, he didn't survive that long. He didn't survive past childhood, and he dies when he was around 10 years old or so. Nothing untoward, just a very unfortunate
Children die.
Children die. Terrible times. In approximately 1628, her aunt, the one who was exiled to Peru, also dies in Peru, and Catalina becomes the owner of huge amounts of property in Chile that she has inherited from her aunt. So from her father, she's inherited a huge amount of land. From her aunt, she's inherited a huge amount of land. She now owns most of Chile.
Okay.
A lot of land. I mean, as her wealth and her land and her power increases, her mistreatment of servants and slaves got more and more violent. I mean, there are sort of echoes of Elizabeth Bathory.
Yes,
in
this.
I
was just thinking that earlier, actually.
And if you think about it, Bathory dies when Catalina is 10. So they are entirely concurrent sort of characters, really. Opposite ends of the world, but living in the same sort of environment.
I think it's more of a coincidence than she was reading it on
Google. Oh, no,
absolutely.
But it is a global thing at that time that people are property.
Yes.
If you have money and you have inherited these fancy titles and names and things, you can do what the fuck you want wherever you are.
Particularly to your servants.
If you're in Europe or if you're in South America, do what you
point.
like. She openly torments and murders slaves on her various plantations. Daily beatings are the norm, and the slightest infraction would result in the harshest of punishments, many times death. On one occasion, a slave, a chap named Nauticon Jeton, he is executed. Don't know what for, but he is executed, and his body is hung in the plantation for 2 weeks, just on a big pole in the middle, as a deterrent, supposedly, to all those who would go about their business and see him hanging there, and they would know not to cause trouble.
I'm assuming they knew what he did at the time.
At the
we
time,
just don't know.
Yes, we just don't know.
Because if no one knew, they went, "Oh my God, what is it?"
I'm assuming people knew at the time what the crime was that he had been punished so severely for, but it was a deterrent. No one else do this because you'll end up like that.
Didn't squeeze the oranges fresh.
Didn't squeeze the oranges fresh enough, indeed. I mean, officials came to inquire about the mistreatment of slaves. That was sort of leaking out, but they are openly attacked by her guards, the people that she employs to defend her place, or they are bribed just to look the other way. She's got big piles of cash, throws some of it at these officials, and they go, "Oh, there's nothing going on here. I'm going to the pub." No one bats an eyelid, really. As time progresses, more and more rumours of her murderous activities come to the surface. In 1624, so before she is actually married, she is said to have invited a lover to her home in Santiago. Quite scandalous, obviously. Not married. When she had him in her arms in bed, she stabbed him in the back.
Ooh.
And continued hacking until the man is cut to ribbons. She then screams and screams and screams for help, and everyone comes running to see this bloodbath in this room.
Okay.
She calmly points to one of the slaves.
No.
And told everyone he had done it.
Jesus.
Now, who is going to believe a poor slave over the mistress of this powerful family? The man is executed in Santiago's main square for everyone to see.
Oh, that's nasty. But
But
also, if you stand there, like, they all knew that he couldn't have done it if he ran in.
Yeah.
And
Everyone
then
knew.
she just goes, "Oh, it's you," and it's like, "Well, what are we going to do? We can't say no, you did it. Okay, fine, you're all dead."
Exactly. Yeah. You have no say in this. And even when he gets to trial or into court, no one is going to be the slave over such a powerful woman, who has no doubt bribed a lot of people as well, so get them to go along with what she is saying.
Yeah.
Another tale tells of a lucky escape for another lover, Enriquez de Guzman.
Nice.
A knight of the Maltese Order, very fancy as well.
Oh, yes.
Now, he and Catalina had been carrying on an affair for some months, again, before she's married. But when Catalina asks for some more commitment from him, he laughs at her. And now he feels that she's, in fact, beneath him as a wife. Perfectly fine for a mistress.
Yes.
But not quite wifely material.
Don't take her home to mother.
Yeah, now, unsurprisingly, Catalina does not take too kindly to this disparagement.
No, I mean, you can't really blame her.
No,
really.
indeed, absolutely not, and flies into a rage, stabbing at him. Now he's able to defend himself and escape, and he tells everyone he meets about this crazy stabby woman, which only adds to the gossip and the rumours surrounding her, which doesn't help her grandmother's search for this husband.
Could that be bullshit, though, on his part?
Potentially.
A bit of prostrating of like, "Oh, I didn't want to marry her.
Yes, maybe.
She was beneath me, and she came at me because I refused her and tried to stab at me. So just feeding fuel to the fire.
It could well be.
Entirely possible, clearly, that she is that mad, and if anyone rebuffed her, that she would do that. But there's always the chance that people are going, "Oh, yeah, I totally was one of her lovers."
And there's something I will come on to towards the end, which ties into that, absolutely. In 1633, a priest, Luis Vasquez, he is quite vocal in his criticism of Catalina's treatment of the slaves and her frivolous lifestyle, as he sees it. Now, she, as we've established, is not one to take criticism well. She invites the priest to one of her plantations so he can see for himself that these are nothing but vicious rumours spread by her enemies, and if he would come and see, they would see that the slaves are they're skipping along, everyone loves her, it's a delightful place to be.
She just like had them acting out a play when they come along going, "Oh, everyone, positions, people.
Positions.
La.
Happy faces, everyone, happy faces. The priest rather foolishly accepts this invitation.
Oy.
And he is never seen again.
Wow, okay, fair enough. No acting there, just
no
kill
acting
the fucker.
there. Yeah, just kill the fucker, absolutely. The situation becomes so dire that the slaves revolt against her rule on these plantations, and they run and they escape to the mountains to avoid further torment from her. But due to her influence and her wealth and her power at court, she organises a pursuit, and the royal army she's given a regiment of the royal army to go and pursue these slaves into the mountain.
Bit much.
and she successfully captures all the escapees.
Bloody hell.
They are returned to the plantation, where Catalina herself presides over a bit of a show trial, really, metes out punishments for these rebels. Now, there are outside authorities who are there, who are supposed to be overseeing these hearings. Pretty much all of the escaped slaves are sent to death. They go in their sort of statements, and when they're sort of questioned, they go into great detail about the horrendous treatment that they have experienced and have been subjected to, and that's why they ran. But there is no excuse for revolt against your masters. So all the escapees are put to death. Now, despite this very public display of support for Catalina, behind the scenes, the authorities are getting a bit worried. They're getting a bit nervous about the numerous rumours and repeated accusations about her cruelty and her mistreatment. There had already been this rebellion on her own lands. If it continued, it wouldn't take too much for it to spread to other plantations, other people's lands. Could get really out of hand.
One-sided kind of argument. We're not going to actually fight for the slaves' rights, or this is wrong, the way she's been beating them. But she's going a bit too far, and it's causing them to revolt. And obviously we have to punish and kill all these people to show that you don't run away from your masters. But maybe we should step in, because otherwise this might negatively affect when we get our breakfast.
Exactly so. That's exactly right. The royal court sends Francisco Milan to question the slaves at the plantation in private, in secret, without the presence of Catalina. These secret investigations prove that all the accusations against her are entirely true, and they have gathered the evidence. Judge Juan de la Pena Salazar orders the arrest of Catalina, and she is brought to Santiago to be tried for her crimes. The entire process is thoroughly slowed down by many officials who are bribed by Catalina. Still, the investigators have attributed 40 murders to Catalina, plus the cruelty and the mistreatment of her slaves, all of which they think they have got evidence that they can prove.
Oh, good Lord.
She doesn't even make it to trial.
Oh.
Thanks to her influence, her wealth, rampant bribery, she is released within a week of being brought to Santiago and is on her merry way back to her plantation to live life as she wanted
Swinging a mace as she goes.
Exactly. She can do what the fuck she likes because she's got the cash.
Well, yeah. Power buys you influence and freedom.
And freedom. Catalina's husband, Alonso, dies in 1650. Entirely unmurdered, as far as we know.
He went unmurdered.
He went unmurdered. The couple was childless, thanks to their son, unfortunately, passing away. So Catalina inherits everything. She has now full control of the estate. Now, they've been married for 24 years. And between the various inheritances and investments, they have amassed a huge amount of property. Different plantations, various farms, fortified manors, not quite castles, but sort of fortified places, city estates and things like that, loaded in.
They're doing very well.
They're doing very well.
They're doing very well.
They're very well indeed. But after her almost trial in Santiago, Catalina seems to have taken stock, really, and realised that she can't quite carry on the way she had been. And she appeared, to all intents and purposes, to be determined to mend her ways. But despite her newfound penitence, her accusers are not convinced, and they remain determined to get her. In 1662, a new trial is launched by officials who are determined to know the extent of her crimes and to see that she is punished for them. Now, this new trial is instigated primarily by two men. Francisco Milan, who had been the secret investigator in the original trial, he is now a judge, and Bishop Francisco Luis de Scalado.
Oh, wow, big name.
Who is a relative of the missing priest, Luis Valles.
Oh,
the priest who went missing, he is a relative.
Not prejudiced at all, but it's
no, indeed,
fine.
An entirely unbiased, fair trial. So,
That's what you want.
Both men obviously have a very personal grudge to settle against this woman.
Well, it seems like that's the way to go, because the normal routes of justice are not open to her, because she shuts them down pretty quickly.
Exactly.
So you're going to need to have some sort of personal vendetta to actually get this going.
Yeah. Now, Catalina is getting old by this point. She is in her 60s.
Oh, God.
Which, for the 1600s...
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good going, really. Pretty
Was
good
she
going.
drinking virgin's blood?
But her health had begun to deteriorate, and she died before ever seeing any punishment for her crimes. Her funeral was a spectacular affair, apparently. Lavish parades of people, paid mourners, but very poorly attended, really.
Oh, really?
There were not that many people willing to go. People who were encouraged to be there because they had to be there. But people just sad to see her go. There were very, very few.
Yes.
Really. In her will, she leaves vast sums of cash to the church.
Oh.
She leaves strict instruction that masses are to be sung for her soul. Thinking she has something of a guilty conscience, really, that she needs to be prayed for.
No, she's securing her legacy, that no one will ever forget her. In that day and age, that's your news service. It's the church. It's if you're singing masses about this person, it is literally you can never forget them. And singing for their soul. Oh yeah, everything you do in the church is for your soul. But that's her. She's just making sure that no one will ever forget her. I mean, she doesn't give a shit about her soul. She's going to hell.
She leaves enough money for 20,000 masses. That's two a day for 27 years.
If she was that worried about her soul, she wouldn't have killed everybody.
Well, absolutely. You would hope. Definitely.
She's doing that, so
She's doing that for her reputation.
That is basically the equivalent of securing I vow to thee, my country. That's it. That's her hymn that we're all sick of, but we all know.
She also leaves money for a statue to be erected in the San Agustin Church in Santiago, where she's buried.
There we go.
Not of her. It's not a statue of her.
Okay.
It's a statue of Jebus.
Jeebus.
A statue of the crucified Jesus.
Yes.
But it is known as the Lord of Agony, this statue.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which is a very, very jolly statue name to have. And you can still see it now. It's still there. It's in the church.
Is it a particularly gruesome?
I think, I've seen pictures. It's like there's a lot of blood. And you can still go and see him now above her crypt.
Yes.
In this church in Santiago. Should you wish?
Should we wish?
We probably won't. It's a very long way away.
It would be lovely to go.
So that is the story of La Quintrala.
Yay!
This crazy, crazy murdery lady.
Good story.
Who killed many, many people.
Our successor to Elizabeth Bathory, apparently.
Well, indeed, not quite as extravagant as Bathory.
But still pretty murdery, bloody woman.
But 40 people.
Yeah.
They were convinced they could get her on 40 people, plus numerous mistreatments and cruelties.
But they never did.
But they never did. She escaped. She escaped in the end.
Justice. No, definitely at the end, the masses and the big statue of Jeebus is just going, yes, you can't do a mass just like, oh, pray for me, just, for my lovely, lovely things. And pray for my soul. And also, you can't put your own statue up there because everyone would deface it and tear it down, but you can't tear down Jesus.
Well, exactly.
And it's a big monument. Oh, she paid for that. Oh, she doesn't give a shit. She evil and horrible and murdery. Yes. Ooh, good story. It's nice to go to South America.
It's somewhere different. We haven't been there before.
It is. She did some terrible, terrible things.
Indeed. I mean, so you made a point earlier about the Enriquez de Guzman, the chap who rebuffed her. Spurned her, indeed.
And was stabbed for his trouble.
That he went out of his way to sort of say, oh, yes, I shagged her, in a sort of macho way. There is a lot of thought now that did she really do much of what she did? Yeah. Because she's really the only, in that part of the world, at that time, she's the only woman who is seen to have any sort of power or influence. Yeah. In a world that is purely revolved around men and sort of machismo and being this woman who had power and authority and wealth, is a lot of it just trying to remove her and say, well, a woman couldn't do all these things. She couldn't run plantations, and she couldn't be wealthy and successful in her own right. Yeah, is she having a lot of mud slung at her for being a woman? Yes, I don't know. I mean, it's entirely possible, and we have to look back on the fact that women were always judged more harshly, and then were judged more harshly in history by historians for years. They just went, oh, it's a woman, she must have been mad. She must have been mad. Write down that she was mad, and she did all this stuff, and they just took it as fact that a woman in charge was mad. But I don't doubt at all that she was a ruthless leader. I'm sure she was. I'm sure she was very ruthless. Was horrible to all of her slaves, and she did terrible things. But I don't know any more so than the chap who lived down the road at the next plantation. No, probably not. But she's just written about, and I don't think they're necessarily saying she was. Well, maybe there are that say she was the worst who ever lived. I think any guy who slept with her
And if she kicked off, would have been absolutely boasting about it later on. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you if she's a powerful landowner going, oh yeah, I hooked up with her and I turned her down. I mean, that obviously happened. You're just going to see it in a different light rather than, oh, she was crazy. It was like, yeah, you were fucking chancing it, mate. Yeah. She'd just be pissed off like, what the hell? Get out. Yeah, is she being judged more harshly than men at the time, than other serial killers or other leaders? You know, is she put in the category of what a vile, evil woman compared to any other man at the time who was just a leader?
Yeah, exactly. Just a leader and strong and did what needed to be done and all this sort of stuff and things.
I will say I don't know a huge amount about in the 1600s in South America.
No.
The demographics and the political system and the kind of socioeconomics of it all and everything, whether actually in that area there was a bit more of a gender balance, I don't know. I genuinely don't know the area that much. Anyone who does know about the history of it, please let us know. In time, though, over the years when the historians are writing much later, they just tend to go, woman, her womb was hysterical. Yep. She clearly was absolutely mental.
Entirely crazy.
Put her down as just something evil. The bourgeois of this, blah, 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 blah. Men, they just had a bad day. They're fine. Yes. Oh, it's a good story.
Yeah.
What do you think, people? What do you think of La Quintrala, the red-headed woman who hit people with red things and red things came out of their body? Yay! Do you know the story? Do you know more stories from South America that we can cover? That one had poison in it and it had lots of other murders and torture and everything in it. Do you think she has been wrongly represented through history? Yes, probably a terribly fearsome leader and ruler of slaves. But is she being unfairly maligned compared to other men of that time? Or do you think she deserves everything that she got?
Well, indeed.
Yes. Tell us what you think. Send us messages. Jump onto the comments of the various social media platforms that you use or wherever you listen to this podcast. But most importantly, do mix up a red lion.
Yes, give the red lion a go. It's very tasty. And the fun bit is licking all the sugar off the glass. So that's enjoyable. So the recipe will be out this evening, as it always is.
Yeah.
So give it a go. I heartily recommend it.
Delicious, fruity cocktail. One word of warning, I licked off most of the sugar that Nick had grated orange zest into, and that had some sort of allergy reaction to me. Halfway through, I started sneezing uncontrollably and had to pause this podcast. I was like, oh my god, what's happened? But worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Delicious cocktails. Send us your pictures of cocktails over the weekend, whatever you are enjoying, and send us more suggestions of cocktails you'd like us to mix up, and importantly, more stories that we can cover for you. If you haven't already, come and join us on Patreon, and go check out our merch store. Send us more suggestions of extra merch that you want, because I'm having a little rethink of some things that we can craft for you, maybe in time for Christmas. Thanks for listening, guys. We have been the people inside the Poisoner's Cabinet. We will see you next week, and remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.
Bye.